like I'm not very good at sitting down and plotting things out. And actually that's a thing with the book one is that like I openly admit that like book one's world building is trash. I think it's awful. It's like I named the world the realm.
Amy and is a podcast that explores all kinds of bookish things, and that can include some pretty adult content. So please be aware that some of this content will be not safe for work or for young ears, and be careful who's listening when you are. Welcome back to Amy and. I'm Amy Matthews, and I am here with Millie Heffernan.
That's me.
And Justina Ashman.
Hello.
And the lovely Riley Jones.
Hello.
We have a really exciting episode today. Before I start, I want to acknowledge that the four of us are meeting on Gunnerland today. Beautiful. I'm in Carrawirripari. I'm down by Carrawirripari, the River Torrens, in Tantania, Adelaide. I think everyone's on Gunnerland. Is that right? Yep. And we'd like to pay our respects to elders past and present, and to extend our respects to all First Nations people, and to acknowledge the incredibly rich history of storytelling and knowledge through storytelling that the Kaurna people have. And our exciting episode today is we get to talk to Rebecca Thorne, who is a friend of yours, Riley.
Yes. We met on Discord like many years ago, like when I was 17, 18 years old and first writing, and I know her as Bex, and like I was there just lurking as like Can't Spell Treason Without Tea was like first forming and everything, and it was like a Discord server where everyone was supporting each other with querying stuff, so like I got some like feedback from Bex, and Bex was like the big moderator as well. So it's a bit of like a
lovely person to have as the moderator when you're starting out.
A little role model kind of thing that I had when I was first fully forming, like as an adult, but also as an author. That was really like formative for me. And so it's really incredible to see how far Bex has come. And with their success and everything.
And has come far, because Rebecca Thorne is not only a USA Today bestseller, but also an indie and a Sunday Times bestseller, specializing in fantasy, sci-fi, and romance. Proud member of the LGBTQA plus community. And I actually get a shout out. I love her website so much. Like the way that the kind of love for the LGBTQI plus community is just like baked into the website. Like you are welcome in. I feel like it's so cozy, right? Like come on in, you are welcome. We are all community here. And I also love the way she foregrounds her ADHD as like a superpower rather than a limitation, because I do think a lot of authors exist in that space, and that it is a superpower when it comes to imagining worlds and writing. So I kind of love that about her as well. So we are really lucky to dive in and talk dragons. I don't know how much dragon talk we'll get because we want to talk about the books, but we're really lucky to have Rebecca here with us today so we can talk dragons. So without making you wait anymore, we're going to dive in, and welcome to Rebecca Thorne. Welcome, Rebecca, to Amy and. We have a lovely special co-host with us too, friend of the pod, Riley Bluefield. So Riley joins for academic purposes, so we will soon be knowing this one as Dr. Riley. But Riley Bluefield, if you want to look up any work, Riley's been on some episodes before and is actually a friend of Rebecca's, so there's no way we couldn't have you back for today. So we're talking dragons, everyone. And I know that Millie and Justina, I got your names like mixed.
We became a portmanteau.
Riley and Miley. It's like if I was making you a couple, Millie and Riley.
I was going to say,
that's our shipping name.
Ship name.
I know you guys are like massive dragon fans because we watched Dragonheart together. So do you want to kick off with a dragon question for Dragon Month?
Oh yeah, Justina, you had some great dragon questions. Do you remember any of them?
Yes. I was like, who, me? Yeah. Well, I was going
Me?
to start off because we had this conversation on our like earlier intro Dragon Month episodes of like, were you like a dragon kid? Like we looked through the like Dragonology book. Did you read that as a kid? Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Excellent.
Yeah.
Of course.
So
Yeah.
like what were you, yeah, was that your first like dragon book as a kid, or did you get got by the Hobbit or something? Yeah.
So I found when I was in this store doesn't even exist anymore. It was like a gaming store in the mall in America. And it was in like all the stores, right? It was like, I think it was called like Game Days or something like that. And they had the Dungeons and Dragons books, and I found Draconomicon, the Book of Dragons, and I bought that. And I don't think it's on my shelf anymore because it was so big, because it's like one of those like massive like coffee table books. But I remember it was like $40 or like $30, and I was like 12, and it was like 10, 20 years ago, right? Like it was so much money. Like I saved for like 4 months to buy that book, and then I had it just like, and I just like would flip through it and just stare at the dragons and just like imagine. And now I'm the person that has like a dragon. Like I got my book published, I got a dragon tattoo. Okay, so this is the tattoo.
Oh, cool.
Isn't it pretty?
That's super cool.
I know, it's so cool, isn't it? So it's like a little dragon that I designed, or one of my friends, Anna, designed. I like gave her like the colors and like the pose that I wanted, and she like went in and just like made it amazing. And then I handed that to the tattoo artist and was like, do this. So I got that when I told myself when I was 18, I was like, when I picked out my tattoo, I was like, I'm gonna get a dragon wrapped around an inkwell and a quill. And I was like, once I get my book published in like a fancy New York publisher, that's what I'm gonna do. And so like I got my book published by a fancy New York publisher, and I did go out and get a tattoo, which was cool.
That is super cool.
Ultimate goal.
My best friend in high school when we were 17, without telling her parents, went and got a giant dragon tattooed around her, wrapped around her torso, like right around her
That's
ribs
amazing.
and around her. And then one day her mum came in while she was sleeping and her shirt had come up, and she was in trouble for a very long time, but she had that
I'm
dragon
sure.
I
tattooed for
bet.
the rest of her life.
Worth it.
Honestly, I I feel like a tattoo, I was like, I knew I wanted one at 18, but I was like, I'm not allowed to get one until I really think it through, because like once it's there, you can't take it off. So I put like this really like stretch goal that I was like, I'll probably never get there. And then I did. And I was like, and then it happened like weirdly enough, it happened like the same week that Southwest Airlines allowed us to get tattoos. Like they literally approved tattoos for us for the first time in like 30 years.
So the universe made you
tattoos.
do it.
Oh, well, that's
Yeah, literally, like the
Right,
universe
yeah.
made me. I literally was like, well, shit,
You don't have a
It's
choice.
wild. Yeah.
That's it.
So,
So
dragons are
safe to
great.
say you were a dragon kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
You
yeah.
have a
Oh, yeah.
fave,
Dragonomical
fave
sounds
dragon?
like-
Yeah.
Oh,
I guess was my, yeah.
I mean,
Justina was like,
I would
did you have an
get in-
entry point dragon, but do you have a favorite dragon?
I really liked the dragons in Patricia C. Wrede's books. The Calling on Dragons, Dealing with Dragons. They were like it was a quartet of 4, but they were all kind of like interspersed, and like they followed this main character named Cimmerine, as she was a princess, and she like gave herself to the dragon and then just like basically became its housekeeper. And so like, and the dragon was like this like really old, like kind of crotchety like female dragon who was just kind of like, who like loved like Cherry's Jubilee, so she'd make like Cherry's Jubilee for the dragon.
I have not read
I
this, but I'm getting this.
I
This is
would-
so interesting.
I don't think I have those either, actually, which kind of does make me sad. Oh, but this book, you'll probably love. This one is also one of my favorites. It's called Dragon's Bait by Vivian Vande Velde. And this one is about a girl who is accused of being a witch in her tiny town, and she is put on as a sacrifice for the dragon, as like instead of being burned at the stake, they just like put her out for the dragon. And the dragon lands and offers her the ability to get revenge on her town. And so she goes, and he's like a shape-shifting dragon. So she goes in with him, and just like they just wreak havoc on the people who like basically made her a witch, like a witch,
Amazing.
right? It's very short. It's like a very quick read. Like I think you could read it in like an hour. There's no sequel. It's just like literally like feminine rage. But it was written in like the early 90s. Like I want to say this book was probably published in like 91, 92.
Oh, cool.
And I just feel like I vibe with books like that, where like you should not like they weren't quite their time, but they would fit in perfectly in today's market if they were republished, you know?
yeah, that sounds incredible. Both of those sound like I haven't read either of them, so I'm like, oh man, I'm adding to my to read list now.
Yeah,
already.
me too.
Yeah, the Dealing with Dragons one, the start of that quartet, I do wonder if they just didn't make it across the pond, because I feel like people here have read them. Like they were a pretty popular kids book series for a long time. But I would say that they were probably like when you talk about cozy fantasy and like how the genre kind of created with Legends and Lattes, like there's a lot of books before that that could be like fit in very nicely. And I think that's like a prime example, right? Like this girl who like goes to basically give herself to the dragons, and they're just like, what the fuck are we going to do with this princess? And then they just like basically make her a housekeeper inside this one dragon's, like she's organizing her horde. And then like knights start showing up, and the dragon is just like, all right, I'll go deal with this. And she's like, no, I just found a sword, I can go do it. You know, it's just like it's so fun. And she ends up like becoming like the princess, like she ends up marrying there's like an enchanted forest there, and she ends up marrying like a magician in the enchanted forest. They become like the rulers of the enchanted forest in like future books, and you get to see their kids and stuff. It's very fun.
That sounds so cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, that kind of leads into like talking about tomes and tea and like cozy fantasy in general. Yeah, we should talk about your books that you wrote.
I'll always talk about my books, but I also really do feel like cozy fantasy is one of those, like I'm really grateful I was around for it, because I feel like it's one of those really interesting case studies of a genre basically coming out of nowhere. And then you're like, how was this not around before? Right? Like,
yeah.
So true.
So
I wonder how tied up it is in like other like cozy video games and things. When I was reading Tomes and Tea, I was getting a lot of the same kind of, I guess, like feelings that you get from playing those types of games where you're setting up, you know, even just in the first book, setting up a little shop and like getting all the different things that you need is very
it was
that vibe.
It was really good. I mean, I feel like I'm like laughing because I think I started writing, like I definitely started writing my cozy fantasy to fit in with Legends and Lattes. Like I read Legends and Lattes in March of 2022. Yeah, when it was indie published. And I found it on a bookstore in like Barnes and Noble, which I was like, wait a minute, this is indie published. How did it get here? I was told all my career, I'd been trying to get published for 8 years before this point. I was told all my career, to get into Barnes & Noble, you have to go with the traditional publisher. And then all of a sudden I'm on TikTok, I'm seeing this self-published book, I'm seeing the author talking about the self-published book, and then I find it on Barnes & Noble's shelf. And that's when I realized that like the industry was shifting. I didn't know that this was happening before, but I was like, holy shit, like something as big is changing. So I bought the book and I took it home, and I was like, at first I was just like, who published this? And then I realized it was self-published. And then I read the book and I was like, holy shit, this is going to be huge. And then I looked at the trends of TikTok, and then I looked up the author, and I realized that Tor had actually bought the book in less than 24 hours. Like, I want to say like a week and a half before I found it on shelves, right? So they pulled it off of shelves like a week after I got it. Like it was very quick. But they had signed the book, and I was like, I know Tor does not move that fast with books. Like they just don't. They don't move that fast. So if they're moving that fast, it must be because they see something huge coming in with this genre. And then my next thought was, if I write a book over the summer and self-publish it, I might become the Divergent to his Hunger Games. So I did.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like it was like so stupid, but I was just like, I guess this is what I was at a point in my writing career where like I was ready to leave my agent anyway, and I was looking for the next thing. And then this kind of fell into my lap, and I was in a really shitty place in my life at the time. And I was like, you know what I could use is some cozy. Like, I feel like this is great. So I kind of like went through my archives and like unearthed an old story. And Keanthan Rayna's original story was that they were supposed to be innkeepers on the edge of Dragon Country, basically offering like a host area for the adventurers who came in to steal from the dragon's hordes. And that was like their original plot. So they were just like, it was supposed to be just like this revolving door of characters that came in and out going into the dragon's territory to steal from them. And I mean, like there was no point in that before, because everything before cozy was amp up the stakes, more tension. And I was like, I don't want that. I literally want the video game vibe. I want the one where you're like an innkeeper running an inn, and then you get this revolving door of interesting people coming through. Like that's what I want to write. And there just wasn't a place for it until then. So it was pretty easy for me to kind of tweak that idea into what I needed. And when you talk about like assembling the shop and everything, I laugh because the beginning of that series was genuinely supposed to be like Legends and Lattes to the max. I wanted no question between the comparison of Legends and Lattes and, you know, my book, because there wasn't any others at the time. So I was like, I'm going to follow the formula exactly, right? They're opening a shop. That's the formula, because that's all that existed back then. That's not the formula now, thank gosh. But but that was all we had for a while, you know?
Yeah.
And then as I was able to keep writing the series, I started channeling less of Travis Baldree and more of Tamara Pierce, because like the Lana series, the Kel series, those were
Yeah.
like my jam. And I always said if I was going to write a quartet, I would want it to be like an interconnected quartet with like a lot of other side stories and like characters like Tamara Pierce created. I just think that's so cool. So that's actually where I'm aiming now, is less Travis Baldree, more Tamara Pierce.
That's so cool.
You've said
So
the magic words because
yeah,
Justina
right?
loves Tamara
Yeah.
Pierce. So
Justina is essentially living her life to be a Tamora Pierce heroine. That's what we know about Justina.
That's I want to be Kel when I grow up.
Honestly,
I'm
like
glad.
you could do so much worse. That would be just like I want to have like magic and talk to animals and like have a pet dragon. Like I just yeah.
I'm glad you said the thing about Legends and Lattes, because as I was reading, the first book, I was like, oh, it gives me the exact same feelings of like they're getting their things, they're building the shop, but also the collecting of the community too. I felt was so similar, and I was like, oh, is that bad to say? So I'm glad you said it first, and that you wanted it.
No,
to
it's
be
100% intentional. Yeah, and I'm
yeah.
laughing because like if you look at and like I don't look at reviews, but when it first came out, I was indie published and I did look at a lot of reviews because I wanted to be able to edit things that came up if they needed to. But back then, one of the complaints was that it felt very slow in the beginning, right? Like the first, it's just like, oh, they're just opening a shop in the beginning, not much happens. And then the second half of the book is like crazy. And I did that intentionally as well, because I actually expanded the plot points that I'm supposed to hit as a writer. I pushed them back to give myself that time to establish the shop itself, because I felt like that was such a key detail in aligning myself with that genre.
I heard we all heard Riley present recently, and Riley had this amazing quote, and I'm not going to remember who it is, but you might, about cozy queer romance and about the importance of abundance. And that made me think of kind of the shop and the opening and the community, this idea that cozy is about, as a queer character as well, that you get this abundance of everything, that you're not lacking in things. I was wondering if you could remember the quote exactly or something along those lines, because you did talk a lot about that idea of warmth, safety, and abundance.
I can't remember.
That's okay. I've got the paper. I can go read your paper again.
Yeah, I'm like, I can remember a lot of things from my presentation, but I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue, and I'm like, I know around the area you're talking about, but I can't.
Like cozy's about them getting everything they want, right? Like it's about getting the shop, and it's about the shop being successful, and they get the community, and the community rallies around them, so that eventually, like, ooh, spoilers, but like in parts of the book where like one of them is hurt or they're facing a challenge, the community does rally around them, whereas at the start they're a little bit cautious, and so it's about them getting everything, and that's the abundance.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is that like watching, I feel like I was in a really unique position with this quartet, because I started the first book very cozy fantasy, and then, like I said, bridged into more of a Tamara Pierce kind of arc with, as they grew into their community, right? So the community was there in book 1, but it became like a family by book 4. And one of the big questions in book 4 is, what are they going to be able to do with their shop as their city is like inundated, flooded with tourists, because they all want to see a glimpse of this beautiful shop that they've created, but it's like making their friends' lives miserable. And I love that idea of like cozy fantasy is all about them getting what they want, because I actually feel like I got to explore that a lot more. And it's like, I think the first step of cozy is getting what you want. And then I think the next step of cozy is deciding how badly you want to keep it. Yeah. And I feel like that transition is like prevalent and I think that's prevalent in a lot of other areas too. Like I actually have that paralleled in a lot of relationships and other books that I've written, where it's like, like I always say, like relationships and like solid relationships and good romance is all about choosing that person every single day. So like you get the person in the happily ever after, and then every moment is becoming a question of how badly do I want to fight for this person to keep what I have, and I just love. And like, when is it time to let go? Like that, I think is a really interesting question as well. So I was really excited to be able to explore a lot of those deeper themes as that series progressed in a way that I'm not convinced I would have if it was a standalone.
Sure. And because, I mean, that's another thing that is different about these books is that when you start them, they are together.
Yeah,
they don't have to fight to be, they're, that they're solid. And but then makes me think like, oh God, what's the problem going to be?
I know.
Oh no, what hardships are they going to face?
Like the thing that I love the most about writing Keith and Reyna, even to this day, is like, because I've got a couple novellas planned and like a whole second quartet that I want to do with their kids. And I like the thing that I loved about them so much is that from day one, they're together. And there was never a question in the entire series about whether or not they would still be together. Like, I brought in a lot of other problems, but there was like the one thing you could be sure about was that Keith and Reyna at the end of the day would still be going back to bed together, like, and that was like, you were talking about queer abundance. I feel like that was why I did that. Like, I never get to see stories about established lesbian couples. And I feel like I really wanted that. Like, it's all about the meeting. It's all about like the spike of adrenaline, that passionate romance. And I'm like, I identified as demisexual for a very, like, I'm still demisexual, but like, I thought I was ace for a very long time. I didn't feel that ever. I was very much like, oh no, that's not my vibe, and then I met my wife, and it was a very slow process of like growing into that love. And I feel like that was and I wasn't dating her when I first wrote the first book, but I could imagine what that was like back then. And then I found it. And it was very nice to be able to kind of channel that as I was able to write more in that series. Because I do think that it's important to show a lot of kinds of representation, including established couples. Like, they're not boring. They just face different concerns, right?
And I think that's so interesting because I don't know how to phrase this, but like, you think about romance got kind of flattened into one kind of romance, which is very heterosexual and very patriarchal and is all driven by kind of this burst of male desire. And then, and same with the genre, that it's kind of driven by male violence and male questing. And so to remove both those things gives you something kind of unique, and it gets you to see, okay, what are other kinds of desire? What are other kinds of stories? There is value maybe in watching people set up a tea shop and love each other, and we actually maybe want to read that. We don't have to read the questing male desire.
Well, and it's been really interesting because one of the things I've been genuinely delighted to see is I always assumed that my audience was always queer people, and that is not true. I actually have a lot of straight male readers who come and they're just, awesome. And they're it's shocking. Like, I'm like, they come up and they're like, and the wife is always standing there and the husband is always like, I loved your book so much. And I'm always just like, really? Like,
I get that with the Westerns, because they're cozy. My Westerns are cozy, where like literally you watch people making dinner. And I have so many male readers and unexpected male readers. So isn't that interesting that they want coziness?
It's honestly cool. I feel like there's a lot of things, like, I think what most people see is like, they're like, oh, this relationship reminds me of me and my wife. Or like, this relationship reminds me of me and my girlfriend, right? Like they like see themselves in that type of relationship, which is really cool because I feel like it's so often said that like male readers don't read female characters unless they're looking to hypersexualize the female characters. And that is not what I found at all. It's been really, really surprising.
Do you think there's something, this is me being random, sorry, first draft thinking, but do you think there's something about them too that just calms your parasympathetic nervous system to see, like, my partner's always like, your books are about nice people being nice to each other. And it's just like, there's something really calming about that, particularly in the current moment, to be like, oh, it's just nice to be around these people who I like these people. They like each other. That's kind of great.
I was going to say... It's like the pinnacle of cozy and like cozy romance. Like, for the characters to already be together, I think is a big part of what makes it so cozy. Otherwise, you've just got the conquest of a person or a relationship as opposed to an adventure. So I think that's part of what it is. People just like to see not so much trouble happening and just knowing that everything's happy and safe. And like you said, they're going to be together still at the end. And having that from the beginning is very comforting.
I wonder how much the intersection with romance and other genres like plays into, like, Amy and Rebecca, both of your like appeal of your books to male readerships, because it's like picking up a book that is very, very like I don't know, contemporary rom-com coded. There's like stigma associated with that, but a fantasy and a Western, like when you integrate another genre into it, it kind of opens it up to people who
like they're historically
really
more male focused anyway. It's going to be really interesting. I'll be really curious to see how Moss in Space does, because it is functionally, I think I can confidently say it's the first book that is going to be mainstream published that is aimed at cozy sci-fi. Like it is trying to establish a cozy sci-fi genre. Like there's a lot of books that I think are cozy sci-fi already. But I don't know if the author wrote them with the intention of basically bridging that gap between like Legends and Lattes and Becky Chambers, right? Like, and that was kind of what I was aiming for here. So I'll be really curious to see how that goes too, because I think sci-fi is also one of those like kind of male-coded genres that like doesn't always get, you know, a lot of female readers because it's like usually pretty heavy in the technical side. I'm really curious to see how this book does because I don't know what kind of readers I'm going to expect at a book signing.
I'm super curious about that because especially Project Hail Mary, if you think about it, I think some of it's actually the coziness is actually the cardigan and hanging out with a friend and joking around. And like, I think that is what people are responding to.
Oh yeah, I've heard everyone's favorite part, like, they'll be like, oh, this book made me cry. Why? Because the friendship. Yeah, like it's people like these cozy elements, and now you're just actually establishing the hybrid genre.
And I think too, like one of the coziest sci-fis that I think of is literally Murderbot, which I know is not cozy. Like I recognize it's not cozy, but like it feels so freaking cozy to me. I don't know why. It is like my comfort read. Like I read those books like one a day. They were so short, easily digestible, so funny. And then they just had this really beautiful like friendship, relationship, discovering how to be human arc that I was just like, I couldn't. Like, oh my God, I like her new one's coming out. And I literally emailed my publicist and was like, can I get a copy of this? And they did, they sent it to me because now I'm a fancy author and they send me that shit now. But I literally got to read the new one coming out, Platform Decay, I think is what it's called. Or was that a different one? They all blend together, but this one's amazing. It's like the new one that's coming out is so good. And I feel like that should not be cozy, but
it is.
I think it's but it is. And I think it's because of that, like you said, like the relationships, the way that they all kind of go together. So good.
Yeah. We get this with video games though a lot where they're not cozy because they're like a horror game or, you know, something, but something about them is just so cozy. And so they get labeled cozy games and then people go in to play them thinking they're actually cozy games and go, oh, that's not what I expected at all. But you're like, but isn't there something there? There's something about it that feels cozy. Can't put my finger on it.
I feel like there's a lot of games like Mass Effect for me is a huge cozy one, and that's again not cozy. Like there's like intergalactic drama from like the moment you start until the moment you end, but like it's the relationships, it's the crew, it's the quiet moments where you go around the ship and you talk to them. And you get to like learn about their cultures and learn about their history and you get to explore something that is outside of what you normally see. And then, you know, when you go into the field together, even though it's going to be dramatic, your crew's got your back. And that is so cozy to me, you know?
I really relate to that, especially wandering around the ship and then getting irritated that when there's not new dialogue options, it's like, come on, guys.
Oh yeah, no, Garrus is always fucking calibrating that stupid gun. I'm like, Garrus, talk to me.
You're like, what do you mean I have to forward the story to get new dialogue?
Yeah. I go back to Garrus. He's like, I have to calibrate this weapon. I'm like, but I'm your wife.
That makes me think as well, like, you know, talking about this distinctions between what's cozy and not cozy. I feel like there can be a misconception that just because something's cozy, it means that there's no danger, no stakes, no risk at all.
Yeah.
It's not the case at all. And in to bring things back to dragons in Tomes and Tea, like the dragons in are a kind of like I don't want to say
antagonistic
like,
vehicle.
Yeah, they're antagonistic vehicle. They're not necessarily evil or bad, but they are almost like a force of nature that can be really destructive and dangerous.
I think it's important to remember that there's a lot of different kinds of villains, and the best villain is the one who's not evil, but whose goals directly contradict what the main character's goals are. So, like, they might be a genuinely fine person, but if their goals are not aligning with the main character, that creates tension automatically. And those ones I think are better than like the caricature of the outright evil, you know, right? Like I had a couple of caricature characters that I tossed in for like, again, like more of the animated comedy of it, I guess, right? Like, but there was like a lot of, like, I liked the nuance that happened with the dragons because I feel like the dragons had a very interesting backstory. They were always an integral part of even the original plot when they were innkeepers. And I feel like you said, they're so big. They're like a force of nature. How do you combat that? And the answer is you can't. You have to work with it, right? Like you have to learn how to like work alongside some of these things. Like some of the people that are not necessarily like just because they're people doing something you don't want, sometimes you have to learn to work with them, you know, and then you find out more about them and they become more interesting.
And that's still cozy. That is still cozy.
And that's still cozy.
Even if they're big, wild dragons, even if it seems like a massive conflict, the nature of the conflict is cozy. Yes. I don't care what people say.
No, it's true. Well, and what was really interesting to me is, again, like putting this book back in the context of when I wrote it and what was out at the time, which was nothing. Like a couple people read the indie version of Legends and Lattes, and then there was like a 6-month break where nothing came out and nothing moved on cozy fantasy, except on TikTok, where I was like, hey, I'm writing this cozy. When I was writing it, I specifically took a look at the genre and I said, okay, we've got a shop establishment, we've got found family. What else do I want the cozy like fantasy genre? Like if I was going to write in cozy fantasy, what do I want to see in this genre moving forward? And I was afraid that if all that came out was Legends and Lattes, which is a very, very cozy, quiet book, because it's meant to be quiet, I was afraid we would never get the tension. And like people would always be like, oh, it's not cozy. So like immediately out of the gate, I went in trying to write a book that made people be like, is this cozy? It feels cozy, but like it's kind of also a little dramatic, because I wanted to make sure that people knew that cozy can be a lot of things. Cozy, like I always say, you can't feel the warmth of a fire if you weren't just out standing in the cold. Like otherwise it's just going to feel oppressive. It's going to feel like stifling, you know? But when you're out in the cold and you come in, it's like, oh, this feels so good. Like, yes, hand me a cup of tea. I'm ready to sit down with my friends. You know, I think that's so important, that like nuance of life.
It's so funny because last month, oh my God, what month is it?
We're getting our months confused
We
now.
were talking to Amy Kaufman about YA specifically, but she brought up the same point, that you can't have those like really actually she almost talked about it in the opposite, is that before her big climactic scenes she'd like to have the small quiet scenes, because then you know what the stakes are. So interesting, because I was actually about to say I loved in the first book that the dragons for like half the book are a looming problem. Like I really liked how you could tell that they were going to become important at some point. So I was like waiting for the dragons on pins and needles, because I just recently read one of Amy's books, A Lady's Night, where it's kind of the same, where they're talking about dragons through the first 3/4 of the book. Oh, spoilers. And then the dragons become a problem, and you're like, you are sort of waiting for them to become a problem, but then you're kind of not sure that they're going to. And I felt the same with Tea and Tomes, and I just loved when the dragons actually were like on screen. So I was like, yes, I've been waiting half the book for this.
Yeah. Well, and I think
connection.
It was like genuinely fun to foreshadow. I mean, there was always going to be dragons in a fantasy book that I wrote, but it was genuinely fun to foreshadow them, because I feel like I was able to build them up to be something so big, right? Like even from the very first chapter, there's like dragon iconography, which in the Queen's palace, right? Like the Queen's throne has a dragon, you know, like dragon horns on the back and like dragon like armrests, you know, and you know that that's going to become like a really big deal, because like these things must be a really big deal. If the queen herself is putting them on her throne, they must be powerful. And that's what she's trying to emulate. So it was really fun to like plant those little seeds along the way, but then also kind of fun to like let them come down a peg after that. Like, I think that was like, you built them up. They had this massive battle where it was really tense. And then you have this moment where they're like, hey, we're missing our eggs. And they're just like, oh, and I think that's the difference with like cozy versus other genres, right? Like easily resolved stakes that are still there, but they are quickly resolved, and they don't leave like super lasting trauma, right? Like Candace is not suffering from the trauma of that dragon battle for the next 5 books. They're just, or 4 books. They're just looking for the dragon eggs after that.
Is that a defining feature then of the genre, that you know as a reader you're not going to be traumatized picking it up, and the
I would say that's yeah, I would say that that's true. And actually, the one thing that I really wish I'd done differently, looking back, is I always leave like a little bit of a cliffhanger. Like every book in the series, there's like a tiny bit of a cliffhanger that like leads you into the next story, right? And it's always fine. Like it's not meant to be heart pounding. It's just meant to make you pick up the next book, because it's a quartet and I worked hard on it. Like, please go read it, you know? But the ending one of the quartet, I added an epilogue where I hinted that something was happening in the Southern Seas, and that's a novella that I have planned. It was originally going to be like a duology, and then I actually plotted it out, and I don't think I have enough for 2 books, so I'm just going to make it a little novella or a little book. But I did kind of hint that one of the characters in book 2 is in danger, and like, of course it's, you know, the trans
Yes,
character. And
I remember that.
like,
Yeah.
and like I'm like, I regret that so much. Like I'm like, of course I would never kill Dregs. Like of course I would never kill Dregs. Like, oh my god. Dregs is literally one of
I never thought
characters.
that.
I would give Dregs its like their own book, you know, like she gets her own book later, but like I would never kill. But I wrote that in, and I have to live with that now because we can't take it out because it has been printed.
But you say so clearly on your website, all the characters will have a happily ever after, and I believe that. I internalize that.
I also feel like that's true.
It didn't seem like anything otherwise. Like to me, it didn't. I wasn't like scared or anything. I was reading it. My partner and I actually listened to the first book as an audiobook when we were on holiday in Kangaroo Island, and so like all of the hours that we were driving, we were listening to it together, and we were listening to the end bit, and we were just like, oh well, now we have to read the next one immediately.
Yes, that's exactly it. I'm like,
it was nothing bad. It was just the what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, same, absolutely same. I finished the first one. I was like, all right, well, off I go to buy the second one.
Yeah,
and I think
and like that's what my hope was.
It worked.
Part of that's the promise of romance, and I suppose it's only like heightened even more than by the promise of cozy romance. That you know the characters are going to be okay. Like it's not going to seriously threaten them with right.
Well, and I think that. Oh, go ahead. No, sorry.
So you go. I cut you off. You go. I'm terrible.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that that's something that like most cozy readers know, but there are a select few that I think channel other genres in, and they're just like, oh my God, Dregs drowned. And I'm like, no. There's like a whole plot where Dregs is just like awesome and fantastic and off doing things that a pirate king would be doing or a pirate queen would be doing, you know, like, yeah. Struggle is real.
I was going to ask a process question because I'm so... Like you're clearly very conscious, and I know also with an indie background, there's so many hats you have to wear to make that work. Yeah. But you're very conscious about your process. So I was wondering about the world building and the dragons, because even just listening to you talk about the Queen's Throne, it's clear that you put a lot of effort into this. So how do you go about doing your dragon lore, and like, do you want to just tell us a little bit about that, how you build the world?
Yeah, the dragons, I'm going to be honest with you. It sounds like I put a lot of forethought in, but most of my forethought actually comes when I'm writing the book. Yeah. So like, I was like, I knew that dragons would be coming in later, and I wrote the first chapter, and I'm like, how do I describe, like, what kind of throne would this queen have? And I was like, oh, there should be dragons on it because she thinks she's so cool, you know, like, and I like added that in, but like, it wasn't something that I'm not very good at sitting down and plotting things out. And actually that's a thing with the book one, is that like, I openly admit that like book one's world building is trash. I think it's awful. It's like I named the world the realm. Like it's not like the Tortel series where you're like, oh, I lived in like the Tortel quartets. We love those. No, it's the realm. What the fuck is that? Like
it works. It works.
They study magic in the Magicary. Like the queen lives in the queendom. I feel like I could have done better.
I feel like that is so accurate. That is how humans name things.
Exactly. It feels cozy too. It's like a part of the thing. Like this is just real life.
We literally live in a city that has North Terrace, South Terrace, West Terrace,
and we live in a country with Queensland.
I live in a suburb, and they added beach on the end, and that's the part that I live in because it's on the beach. Like
it's on the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had an island, and they named it in like one of the novellas I'm writing. They named it Pine Island because there's a lot of pine trees on it, and they're just like, yeah, Pine Island. That's what we got.
Kangaroo Island, plus the kangaroos that live there. Like it's
exactly.
It's simple.
I'm just laughing because I'm like, I did have like plans for things, but then like I didn't add them into book one, which ended up, I will say, coming back in like a nice way, because a lot of people said that they've never read fantasy before because they were intimidated by all of the unique names, all of the like weird customs. They felt like it was too big of a barrier of entry after contemporary. And then they started reading my book, and they were like, oh, this was super easy to get into and understand.
That was my partner
actually
as well.
Really, yeah, that was actually really nice. Like that is something I hear very consistently. But I will say I did spend the next 3 books trying to fix the mistakes of book one, right? Like adding more of the world and like the cultures and the like bullshit that happens there. And like, oh, and now there's more dragons. And let's look at the magic systems. And
I love the description of world building as the bullshit that happens.
The bullshit that happens. Yeah.
It's accurate.
That's me.
The dragon
every
shit.
day.
It's the dragon shit
Yeah,
that happens.
the dragon shit. Like, Amy, I'm sure you go through the same shit. Like, it's just like,
Yeah. When you back yourself into a corner and you get to the book with those characters, you're like, oh, I had them do
Yep.
this thing and that doesn't work. And now I have to try and get myself out of the hole.
yeah, you're like, oh, this would be so cool if I did this. And then you're like, oh, wait, I actually contradicted that 60 pages earlier. Ask me how my other series, Crimson Ruin, Gilded Abyss's sequel, ask me how that was, because I stranded them at the bottom of the ocean in book 1. And everyone was like, I can't wait to see how they get out. And I'm like, yeah, me too. Like,
Yeah.
I like low-key think that's what happened with Gideon the Ninth too. Like, I think that's
Oh,
why we
yeah.
haven't had Electo. You're right. Like, I'm like, how do you end the series like that? Like, when you
That's
build
why
up
it keeps
so
getting
much,
pushed off, because she's
How do you
probably
end a
sitting
series
there
like
like,
I would be sitting there like even as a reader, I'm just like, what are you gonna do? Like,
no, everyone's
Yeah.
so stressed about it, and I'm just going to give her time, because as a writer, I know that she's probably struggling, because it's such a
she's
complex
probably
series.
struggling a ton. Like, I just feel like that's a lot.
I do feel like as a reader,
good
there's
on
always
you, man.
that moment when you're reading the book and it gets to that point, you're like, oh my God, how are you going to resolve this? And you're like looking at how much book is left, and you're like, I don't know that there's much left. I don't know.
You're like, ah, shit, this one has a sequel. You didn't even know that when he started.
Yeah, I'm reading this at the moment, and I've got about this much left. And I don't know. I'm wearing Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil.
Oh,
yeah.
I've got like this much left, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I have no idea how they're going to resolve so much crap over like a 300-year like timeline. Everything's falling apart. You've got 2 chapters like left to sort things out. I'm scared.
Yeah.
Oh,
The struggle is always real when you're a writer trying to figure out how to undo the thing, when you're like, oh, this would be so cool, and then you write it, and then you're like, fuck, now I have to actually get them out.
Have you ever
Wait
gone
till the
back
writer comes
and
and
edited
resolves this.
things to like fix things later? I've done that before, where I will literally like rewrite thousands, like
It's really
20,000
really
words.
easy. It's really easy when you're self-published. It's very, very hard when you're not self, because like it's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
like, I feel bad, but like when the Tomes and Teas like first book came out, I did go back, not often, but there were like 2 or 3 times where I just went in and like very quietly removed a line that like contradicted the world building I needed for book 2, very quietly, right? And I'm sure that there were readers who felt gaslit, because they're just like, I remember her saying this, and then they go back and they reread it and it's not there anymore.
This is how Mandela effect theories happen.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, the
people
Mandela
sneakily
effect,
go
yeah.
in and edit their books.
Yep. Yeah.
So
But
how
in the traditional publishing world, you just can't do that. And it's really unfortunate.
How have you found the shift to traditional publishing? Like, how do you find the editing and the pacing and the, like, what was the adjustment you had to make?
The deadlines suck ass.
Yeah, don't they?
Because like with my writing deadlines as an indie, and I will say, like, I did traditional for 8 years before I went indie. And then I was indie for 2, like 1.5. And then, like, of course, the first indie book I put out explodes, right? And and then I'm signed traditional with these publishers that literally wouldn't even look my way before like,
For a decade.
Like, I can't tell you how many books died in submission, and Tor specifically rejected them. And it just was like, okay. But like it was one of those things where like I knew, like, I loved indie, and I would love to get back to indie. I'm actually planning on self-publishing the novellas for this quartet.
Cool.
Hybrid, right? And because I think that we can bundle them into a traditionally published book later. But if they're just novellas, I feel like I can do one novella first, another novella with dregs.
There's a beautiful responsiveness in indie, I think, to the readership.
Yeah, exactly.
Personal.
Because like I can put it out, I can read it, I can edit it, and then when
Oh my gosh, it's cozy.
if my publisher,
it's cozy.
Yeah.
You have the community
indie's
with your
cozy.
readers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, indie is very cozy. Indie is that truly, like, the indie community is genuinely what I think I miss the most. And I think the other thing is that, and my publisher's actually getting very, very good about this now, but I think at first they dove into a lot of indie authors all at once, right? So they were learning alongside us how to work with us. And when you're doing traditional publishing for so long, and they are taking on authors who have never published books, and they are guiding them through the whole process, and then they take on an indie author who is already markedly successful, and did everything themselves, and they try to like combine that together, there's a learning curve for sure, because they got me involved in my cover, which a lot of publishers will not let their authors do. They got me involved in my cover, but like I wanted more. I wanted to commission my own cover. I didn't want the editors telling me what's on the cover. I want to buy my own cover. I want to own the rights to it. I want to commission it myself, and then I want to hand them the final file and have them pay me for it.
Yeah.
And like, that's what I'm doing now. After Travis Baldry advised that, because I went to him and I was just like, I am so frustrated with these covers. And he was like, I started commissioning my own because they were not getting them right. And that's just kind of what you have to do sometimes, you know?
And you were assertive enough to do it.
And and because I had, and like, I'm assertive, but like a lot of authors still, that doesn't matter for them, but I'm able to argue because I had data to back it up, right? Like I could point to all of my, and I'm lucky because I've got a social media following. So I use it as a think tank all the time. Like I'll go in and be like, hey, here's a poll. What do you guys think of this cover? And people will tell me what they think. And then I can hand that data to the publisher and be like, 56% of them say no AI. You know, or really it's like 93% of them say no AI, right? Like, and then when I tell them I'm not doing an AI cover, they know why, because I can hand them data that says why, you know, and AI is becoming less and less of a thing these days. But in the initial push, it was a concern, you know, AI narrators, AI editors. So there's a lot of like little things that I have had to adjust. Like the pick of Mostyn Space, the title is what I always kind of go back to. If I were an indie author, I would have just called it Mostyn Space. That was the working title. That's what I wanted to call it. I was like, Mostyn Space. Second book is called Moss Effect. Third book is called Moss's Guide to the Galaxy. Done. Right? Like, love it. All done. Right? No notes. It's perfect. Right? We went back and forth on that title for like 5 weeks. Over email, like every day, right? 5 weeks, because they'd take it to marketing and marketing would say, we don't really think that'll sell. You know, what about this? What about this? They'd hand me like, and like, no dissing on my publisher, but like, I'm convinced they got some of those off of ChatGPT. Like some of the options, because like
I just did this like 6 weeks, and I ended up with my original title.
And ended up with my original title. Like the closest one we got was an ex-smuggler's guide to moss management, which I liked but didn't love. It was very wordy.
It's not as pithy as yours.
It's not as peppy, right? But at one point, no joke, they actually told me, they're like, well, you know, in your Tomes and Tea series, your titles, people really like them because they have cozy beverage, like tea, in the title. So we should give a cozy beverage for the cozy sci-fi. And I was like, you think my readers like it because it has tea in the title? Like, my readers like it because it's punny. It's a pun. Like, I had to like,
my issue,
I'm like,
people love those titles, and there's always this pushback, and then they always end up being the most popular. They'll be like immediately drawn to it because it's got a pun in the title, or it's silly, or it references something. Like, how is no one picking up on that in marketing?
Well, I feel like because you come from the indie community, you have, as you've been describing, like an access and relationship with your readership that I feel like publishers like really, not necessarily, actually, no, I'm trying to find the right word, but there's a little bit of a step removed when it's through traditional publishing.
Oh,
and
yeah,
100%. Trying to figure out what it is that the readers want, what it is they're responding to.
Yeah,
and then driven by commercialism. Like there is a very, that's why I'm saying like indie's cozy, because it's like a direct writer to reader.
Yeah, like you're supporting, like you can physically see, like I feel bad because like people do call me an indie author. I did for a while classify myself as a hybrid. I don't really think I can classify myself as that anymore, because I am indie for the next trad for the next 3 years, right? And I've got some ideas for like other indie books I'd love to self-publish, but like, and I can go back to them, which is great, but I don't feel like I'm quite as involved in the community. Like I think the difference is like there's a beautiful desperation when you're an indie author. Like you put a lot of your own money into that book. You are really dedicated to make sure that book succeeds.
And when you're in trad, origins.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but like when you're in trad, there's nothing you can do to move the needle. Like there's nothing. You have to rely on your publisher to handle. So like I actually had to get on a call with Moss. Moss has been like, this is the first book that I'm like, no, I'm getting involved, right? And I'm like pushing my way in. And they got me in on they've been great, you know, about that, but they got me in on a marketing meeting. And I basically sat there for like an hour and was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What do you want me to do? Why aren't we doing this? Can we try this? Blah, blah, blah. And that was why I got to run my ARC campaign, which I did. I mean, we ended up with 1,200 people applying for an ARC of this book, which like nobody even really knew existed before this campaign ran. And now it's like, and then we got, you know, Goodreads reviews off of it and stuff. But the reason they were initially hesitant to let me run it is because they thought that if they gave away copies for free to readers, they would not buy the book later. And I was like, you are sorely mistaken. All indie authors know that the more readers you get in the initial run, the more readers you're going to have after, because it acts as an organic word of mouth. And I had to like explain that to a very large publisher. And like, again, my publisher is wonderful. They were very receptive, but I literally sent them like a spreadsheet with graphs because I basically used my my ARC application as a way for me to get data, like 1,200 answers from my readers directly with pie charts that I like then sent over to
You're
be
like a
will you still
dream.
buy the book?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
If I was your publisher, I'd be like, can everyone be like Rebecca, please?
I was literally like, will you still buy the book if it's published? Like, do you still tell your friends about it? Do you go online and review? And all of like the overwhelming, it was like 78 to 90% were like, yes, of course I'll buy the book. Yes, of course I go review. And granted, there might be a little bit of a bias because they wanted the ARC, right? But at the same time, I don't think that's inaccurate because we see that over and over in the indie community. So the transition has been very interesting because I feel like I am a better author to my publisher because I was indie, and I'm glad that I got that chance.
But there is also, don't you think on some level, I always think with those things that that's where you've got to stand by your book. It's like I believe that my book will be of value to, like, they will love my book. And they will, of course, they'll want to buy it because I'm going to write the best book I can possibly write. And I want to give them something they will want to get their hands on.
Yeah. Well, and I do think that kind of goes back as well, right? Like you can do all the marketing in the world, but if the book sucks, it's not going to last past week one. You know, whereas my book, I mean, Treason was hitting the USA Today list as early or like as recently as December of last year.
Yeah.
And like it came out and it hit the USA Today list in December of last year. And it came out a year and a half ago. Like that kind of longevity in the publishing world is basically unheard of. Like,
that
it's
is
very rare.
And that is like how it used to work, word of mouth, right? Is that actually, I think about every single person in this chat, I think, has recommended a book to me and I've gone and got it. Like when I interviewed you last year, like, Rebecca, I was writing down lists. And Riley, whenever we have a meeting, I'm like, oh, I'm getting that book and that book and that book. And same with Justina and Millie. So I do think in the end, you just I want to write a book that people recommend to people. Like like every time I talk to Justina, I write down Tamora Pierce. I've got it on every notebook.
Have you not read her yet?
No, it's on my Kindle.
Oh, you're so lucky.
I write it down.
I haven't either.
I underline it because I bought some books and I underline it.
You guys are so
read
lucky.
It.
Wait, I have. Oh wait, here we go. Hang on. No, the first adventure. Here we go. They had a beautiful version come out. It was like beautiful. And this is the first one. And like I actually got to meet Tamora Pierce and like look at the interior. Oh, so pretty.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
I got to meet Tamora Pierce at an event in Arizona when I was like 17, 18. And I did go up to her and I was like, I'm a writer and I want to write books just like you. And she's very old, you know, even back then she was pretty older. And she was just like, that's great. I hope that you do. And I was like, I remembered that. Like I bought this series because this is like a signed book by her. And I was like, I don't know how many more of these there will be because she is old, you know, but these books were so formative to me. Like these, I don't know. I would love to have even half of this kind of legacy with the stuff that I write. I just feel like this is something that's so important to the world. You know, so much inspiration, so much like girls doing things that they just didn't do in the 90s. You know?
I haven't read Tamora Pierce, but I have another author friend who did a middle grade quartet of dragon books, the Sir Callie series.
Writing that down too.
Yeah. I know exactly what series that is. Yeah,
by Esme Smith. I actually have a hardcover copy, but I can't be bothered to go grab it unless people want to see it.
I would actually love to see it.
I'll go get it
around, but I'm always curious to see the different covers between the US and the UK. But I think I've had that book on my to buy list for a while, and it's just one that's like I keep forgetting, but then I hear about it and I'm like, yes, that book. So maybe I'll actually go buy it tonight because
an arc of this.
Oh, that looks so cool.
It's so cute. Oh my gosh, I love it.
I read an arc of this in 2021 when I was still working as a receptionist, and I would sneakily log into my email and read it at 5:30 a.m. when I worked at a pool.
Oh my god, I love that. We have the same cover, which is actually really cool.
Yeah, because they had I think they did one big worldwide rights deal.
Oh, okay.
So we got the same cover and everything, and
nice.
She's gorgeous. But it's. I would also argue it's definitely not advertised as cozy fantasy, but I would also argue that it has the cozy elements because obviously there's dragons and the main character is like a non-binary preteen who wants to be a knight, but because you're a girl, you can't be a knight.
Yeah.
But there's so many
Yeah.
cozy elements. It's like, they live. Yeah, it's very inspired.
Yeah, it's
The reason I brought it
like,
up
but
is
like,
because
I
it
just like
was recommended by a community.
Oh my God. I know what I'm reading once all my marking is done.
Oh my God. My
Yeah.
sister has all the original copies. She didn't let me take them, which is why I had to
Esme
buy
was
another
so
set.
rapt about that. Like, dream come true. Tamora
Oh my
Pierce's
God,
favorite
such
author.
a
So that's
dream.
why it
Like,
reminded me.
such a dream. Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely adore that. I feel like that's like this vibe, right? This like warmth in this conversation is what you're always going for if you're a cozy author, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that that's what you're hoping to create in your readers because you want them to like rave about a book that just made them feel so capable and so confident, especially when they're queer, right? Like,
what this book I love about it so much is that even with like the knights and the dragons and there's like a war starting sort of thing, spoilers, very vague though, is that the main focus is on this little non-binary teenager and like their couple of friends that like who are other misfits who they make friends with, and like they live on like a little private reserve out in the rural area with like their dad and his boyfriend, and it's all, and they like practice sword fighting together out in the yard with like a wooden stick, and they're making like warm drinks together in a little tent, and that is what sticks out to me so much. And so I'm like, even though it's not advertised as cozy, I would still say it
still
has
feels
cozy elements.
Yeah. It's got like those like wonderful, familiar, and yet still fresh elements. Yeah, I feel like Tamara Pierce just nailed that. Like, I feel like anything that comes in her legacy after that is like, anybody who says that they have a book that's like Tamara Pierce, I feel like I pick it up immediately because
that's why I was like, because she's one of the authors on the cover being like, read this book. I was like, hey,
hey, yeah, I love that.
Oh no, I was gonna do what I'm assuming you're about to do, Amy.
Yeah, I think so. You go.
Oh well, I think we're just about out of time, unfortunately. Even though I feel like we could all go.
I know. I was like, we could talk for like 3 more hours.
I know.
You've already talked a little bit about what's coming up next for you, but was there anything else you wanted to add about for people who what to look out for on the bookshelves? What's coming next from you?
Yeah, I'm currently working on the second book in the Moston Space trilogy. It is a slow burn sapphic romance. She does not date the moss.
I love
people are like, I thought it was a romance with the moss. I'm like, okay. I was like, I know there's a book about like a romance with a door, but like
we did do sentient object romance a couple of months ago.
I'm
sure.
But I was just kind of surprised. I'm like, really, you think that's what I'm writing? Anyway, yeah,
I love slow burn, so I'm there. Slow burn is like my favorite trope.
I'm like laughing because I'm like, I'm writing like a genuine AO. Like, I met my wife on Archive of Our Own, right?
That's awesome.
Is out of beta now, apparently. For the
as of April Fool's Day.
Like, what? I was like, how are you still in beta? But yeah, but I met my wife there. So like when I say slow burn, I mean like they barely hold hands by the end of book 1. And like maybe they have a kiss, maybe by the end of book 2.
Oh, so I love this. I would be on the edge of my seat.
Like I'm laughing because my publisher is a romance publisher, and my editors came back and were like, we need to amp up the romance, more romance. And I'm just like,
it is.
People love slow burn.
Okay, so like my favorites would be like Sleepless in Seattle, where they don't even meet to the end of the movie, or like Anne of Green Gables, where there's like not any romance for like 4 or 5 books. Like I love that because you're just on the edge of your seat, like touch each other.
Touch each other, right? So it's more of like when they added more romance, that was like kind of like the compromise, right? Where it's just like, oh, we're close, but we can't quite be together yet. And that has been an adventure for me because I wrote an entire series where they were like joined at the hip. Lesbian style, right? So Moston Space is coming out. It's going to be great. We are releasing, I think, in the end of June in the US, and I don't know when the UK one is coming out. I feel like it might be like the 11th of June. I think it's like a week after. But that should be wonderful. I am trying to get cozy sci-fi to be a thing. That is literally why I wrote this book. I was like, please, I need more cozy sci-fi. I want to read romance in space and cozy in space. Please give all of it to me. So I'm hoping that this book, like genuinely, like, please, I want more. So like, if anybody reads it and loves it, please buy it. Please get friends to buy it, because the more book sales we have, the more editors now can point to my book and be like, we should buy more of these.
Well, can I remind all our listeners all our listeners that June on Amy and is Queer Sci-Fi Month. So we will
Perfect.
definitely be doing a callback to that book.
This will be a wonderful end to the US's Pride Month too. I'm very excited. And that's actually my birthday month as well. It comes out like 10 days after my birthday. So should be good.
Amazing.
But yeah, so that one's coming out, and then I do finally have the sequel for This Gilded Abyss coming out in December of this year. So
that's exciting.
That book is done and in my editor's hands, and like they're moving it to the presses, so it's not like editing anymore, because I was editing it for like years. Don't ever trap your characters at the bottom of the ocean. It is such a bad idea. Like, oh my god.
Noted.
Important advice.
But now we're all hanging out to see how you manage this.
It's true. I'm so curious to find
out. The
out.
struggle was so real. I literally, like, I think I sat on it for like a year and a half, just like staring at it, like, oh,
okay, ocean.
Oh,
where's the bath plug?
Yeah, right. Like, and teleportation? I don't. It wasn't in the first book.
Is there a sea dragon? Is there a sea dragon?
Magic. Sea dragons, take them up. Magic. Yeah, it was a process. So.
Well,
anyway,
thank you so
those
much
are what's coming up for me.
Joining us. We'd love to have you back again one day. Everyone, we will do a callback in June for Queer Sci-Fi Month. We'll have a look at the book and we will report back. And thank you, Riley, for joining us today too, and Millie and Justina, and everyone get reading. We're reading Dragons this month. We've got Moniquill Blackgoose's To Shape a Dragon's Breath for our book of the month. So tune in.
I have heard that is so good. That's been on my TBR forever.
Yeah, I literally highly recommend.
I literally think I have it not on this bookshelf, but on
highly recommend.
My God.
Abby's that's been one Abby's mentioned to me for years, and I'm finally reading it.
Okay,
so good.
Yeah.
So everyone,
it sounds amazing.
Get reading for Live Book Club, and we'll see you all then.
All right.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Is hosted by Amy Matthews, Abby Guy, Peyton Hogan, Justina Ashman, Harry Stewart, and Millie Heffernan. This podcast is recorded on Gardenland with music by Anthony Wigmore and Mass Wisteria. Our logos and branding are designed by Abby Guy. This episode was edited by Millie Heffernan.